I was a little bit surprised by it, to be honest with you, that this was the move they're announcing the day that the full team is there for full workouts. Xander Bogaerts moving off short, year 2 of a deal. I never expected it to be that soon. I did think it would happen. Is there a level of selflessness, not selfishness, selflessness in there? I do think that there is. Now, I think they could have gone further. That's my only point here, and I give him credit for doing it. I do give him credit for doing it, but this to me is like ripping a Band-Aid, but not fully off, because you've got a 2-time All-Star second baseman on your team in Jake Cronenworth. Xander Bogaerts hasn't played second base. He'll be fine, by the way. He's been good in the middle infield before. He'll be fine. But if you're moving Xander, did they consider moving him to first, or is this like meeting him halfway? You want to be a shortstop. You clearly don't want to be a first baseman. What about second base? And that's why they settled on second, because I still would argue that the best defensive alignment would be Kim at short, Cronenworth at second, and then Bogaerts to fully swallow his pride and put him over at first.
Can't cry over spilled milk. And by spilled milk, I mean the actual signing of Xander Bogaerts. Mm-hmm. He's here. He's going to be here. He's not going anywhere. It's virtually, at this point in time, an impossible contract to move. So he's going to be here. But it does go back to how quickly now Xander Bogaerts has moved off shortstop to second base. It just signals to me it was at this point in time, and maybe Xander Bogaerts has a really good season. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think everybody wants to see. Everybody hopes that he has a really good season, and everybody hopes that he excels at second base and his offensive numbers are more consistent this year, and he doesn't ground into as many double plays, and he's better with runners in scoring position. All of that can be true, but as of right now, it just kind of points to the, why did they sign Xander Bogaerts again?
Right. Okay, so you spent $280 on this player who's a 2-time champion. And by the way, you look at his numbers overall last year, and we were critical of Xander Bogaerts. It wasn't like Xander Bogaerts was the reason why the team didn't make the postseason.
No,
there's a million reasons.
He was a part of it, though.
There's a million reasons. You're right. But it's funny because when you look at what they ended up doing, they moved an all-star second baseman to first to accommodate, and they moved Kim to second to accommodate Xander Bogaerts, where really what they were desiring last offseason was a first baseman. You never would have given $280 million to a first baseman. You could add anyone under the sun for 1/5 of that or 1/10 of that. But they signed Bogaerts. It was almost like, hey, let's just get best player available.
Mm-hmm. And we'll worry about it later.
Yeah, as opposed to filling needs. And then they put themselves in this conundrum. And I still feel like they're in a conundrum a little bit. Do I think they're better off with Kim at short and Bogaerts at second defensively? Yeah, probably. I don't think it's the end-all be-all. You're just moving players around. I think Bogaerts will be fine at second base, but I don't feel as if today's like, oh, they fixed it. They figured it all out. Now, what I do think it signifies is, hey, Xander Bogaerts was willing to do something that the team asked him to do, and maybe they weren't doing that a year ago, so maybe that is a bit of a positive, but I don't feel like this was like the missing piece to the puzzle, what we got here today. Do you?
No, I don't. Again, I go back to the positions of this team. If you look at where they fit best, Jake Cronenworth's best at second base. Ha-Seong Kim defensively. Mm-hmm. And offensively. I mean, you look at his numbers when he was at second offensively, much better than he was at first base. Mm-hmm. A lot of factors, but still, that's what it is. Ha-Seong Kim, better at shortstop. Okay, he's back at shortstop. Mm-hmm. The thing with Xander Bogaerts is he was pretty serviceable at shortstop last year. Mm-hmm. Wasn't bad at all. I think you look at the metrics, he was probably above average. I think he was good.
Oh, yeah, defensively?
Yeah,
he was fine.
And Ha-Seong Kim was a gold glover at second base. So now you run the risk of upgrading your shortstop defense a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, because Kim's really good. And I think we all know Kim's the best shortstop on this team defensively. And also, in the same turn, downgrading defensively at second base with Xander Bogaerts.
The same thing.
Because you don't know how he's going to perform there. I mean, you saw him today on the backfields, and he was getting help from Matthew Batten on how to turn double plays at second base. So as a team player goes, great. I love the whole dynamic of it. It's something that he clearly did not want to do. And by hearing him, it's clear and evident that it wasn't his first choice or first option. Why would it be his first option? He's not going into Mike Schultz's office or going up to AJ Preller, calling him on the phone, presenting this idea, groundbreaking idea. I want to play second base. He was actually trying to avoid the conversation to move positions. If you listen today, and we'll hear from Xander Bogaerts coming up later in the show, where he was trying to distract Mike Schilt when he was visiting him in Aruba from the conversation of him moving to second base. So this is not something that Xander wanted to do. It didn't sound like he at first was open to the, or not open to the idea, but, you know, wanting to talk about it. But in the end, he is a team guy. And as long as he's out there and if he's giving you good numbers offensively and he's playing adequate defense at second, then you can look at it as, okay, this is fine. This is a good move.
No, I give him credit for doing it because, again, this is a guy making $280 million. I want to get the perspective of Bob Scanlan, who does such a good job covering the Padres, Padres.tv, back here for 2024 in Peoria right now, where we get the news earlier today that Xander Bogaerts will, in fact, move to second, and Ha-Seong Kim will go back to short. So, Bob, it's great to have you with us. San Diego Sports 760, Jon and Jim. What was your reaction to what you heard earlier today? And thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's awesome to be out here in spring training. I'm standing on the mound here at practice field number 2, and I'm looking over my left shoulder where Xander Bogaerts would probably be at second base right now. So,
are you trying to earn a job in that rotation, Bob, or no?
Yeah, you throwing a bullpen today?
Hey, I'm here to help the team wherever they need me. You know, like Xander
Team
moved over
guy.
to second base. I'm happy to help out wherever. But yeah, it was kind of a surprise announcement today by Mike Schilt. A surprise in that it's actually coming to fruition, not a surprise in that it hasn't been discussed, as you guys know. And Mike acknowledged that he even discussed it with Xander when he went to visit him down in Aruba back in December. So it didn't completely come out of the blue. But at the same time, when you actually have that talk with the player and say, you know, we've talked about it, we've hinted at it, and now it's time to actually make this move, that can be jarring, especially for a guy that's, you know, been a premium major league shortstop. But to his credit, he's doing what the team needs. And I have a ton of respect for him because he could have, by all means, and we know players that have done it in the past where they dig their heels in and say, no, I'm not moving. I feel like I still have years left at this position. And nobody's saying that he can't play the position anymore. As you guys were just mentioning, he had great defensive numbers last year. But if you've got a guy who the organization feels like can cover that position, you know, more efficiently and effectively than you. And Xander says, like, I have a ton of respect for the way Ha-Seong Kim can play shortstop. So it's not as though they're replacing him or having him move for a guy that he feels like is inferior. He understands what's going on. He didn't want to be a distraction neither this year nor in the future because he knew eventually this conversation was going to happen, whether it was this year or the next year or the following year. So if that's the case, hey, let's get it done. Let's put it to rest. Let's make the move. And as he said, hopefully he can become a Gold Glove shortstop at second base, and most importantly, bring championship baseball to San Diego. And I love this point also because, look, I've won a championship as a shortstop. I've won a championship as a third baseman. Why not get one as a second baseman now? So I think he's taken a great attitude with it.
Do you think that anything from last year, as far as the way this team played, I mean, 82 wins, they missed the postseason. The year was definitely a grind. Like, say they won last year, say they made the postseason. Do you still think they make this move this year? Because Xander did note it was it came up on him very quickly this year. He did not expect it to happen in year 2 of the deal.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll never know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things are always rosier and better when you win, and you have a tendency to be a little bit more introspective when you lose. You know, and when you win, you party. When you lose, you tend to ponder a little more. So who knows if it would have happened, to your point, if the Padres get to the postseason. But, you know, I think that it still might have been addressed because no matter what you've done the year before, you're trying to make yourself better moving forward. And I think that's what this is all about. You know, I think a lot of things happened last year. And Xander knows that regardless of where he is positionally, the important thing is for him to put up the offensive numbers. And that's really what's going to make the difference in terms of the Padres becoming a championship baseball team is maybe a slight difference in the defense, right? I mean, it's not a dramatic change that we're talking about. The most important thing is that he gets back to hitting like Xander, and we saw that the second half when he was able to get that second cortisone shot, get his wrist healthy, and he's going to be more comfortable in the organization, and hopefully that he's healthy from day number 1, and we see the Xander Bogaerts that we know can be a difference maker at the plate.
Bob Scanlan with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 with the brand new online venture or Padres TV, which is coming to you here in 2024. We're excited for it. What do you think about this youth movement, Bob? I know you've been watching some of these young players here, today in Peoria, but specifically like a Jackson Merrill with AJ Preller saying some of these young players, Merrill, Jacob Marcy, they're going to have opportunities in spring to potentially earn jobs. Merrill's only 20 years of age. You've played in the big leagues, and obviously Merrill potentially switching positions as well. What do you make of what's in front of Jackson Merrill this spring?
I think it's exciting that you're looking at players that actually can make that jump. I mean, I was impressed with Jackson Merrill last spring. I'm looking at this kid and just standing there the first time I met him, I go, I'm looking at a man right here. This isn't like a 19-year-old kid. This guy is physically mature. And then in talking to him, just so in charge and understanding of who he is as a player, what he needs to do to be successful, what he needs to do to work on to get better, the way he handled his opportunities in spring training last season, including after making an error, not getting flustered, just coming back and making the next play. He's extremely advanced. And it's fun to watch a kid that you feel like, okay, is it going to be a push to push him to the big leagues with as little experience that he has in AA? Absolutely. But at the same time, he's got some pretty incredible tools that should help him make that transition. He can hit. He can hit for contact. He knows how to hit with two strikes. And watching him in the outfield today, I was shocked, actually. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I came in thinking I was going to be watching a young infielder trying to figure out the outfield, right? And we've seen some of those things not go too well. He is such a good athlete. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of sort of like, how Fernando kind of plays an infield position in the outfield in terms of how he gets the balls, how he gets around him, how he gets rid of them so quick, the footwork. Same type of thing that I saw out of Merrill working out in the outfield today. So I think he's going to be able to make that transition no problem. And I think it's pretty exciting when you think about having young players that have the opportunity of being drafted, developed, and coming up to the big league level. Let's be honest, we haven't seen a ton of that from the Padre organization in a long, long time. So the fact that you've got a Jackson Merrill and you've got a Marcy and watching Ethan Salas catching today, this kid is probably going to be the first catcher to catch in the big leagues as a teenager since Pudge Rodriguez did it back in 1991. He's knocking on the door here pretty soon. So a lot of exciting young players. And it's fun. You already got your veteran superstars and some more exciting talent along the way. So it's a lot to keep an eye on this spring, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of storylines with the Padres this spring for sure. Another storyline is the starting rotation, Bob. A lot of new faces in there. Michael King, who was on the station earlier today, joins the rotation. What do you make of the new look Padres starting rotation, and who do you think are some guys that could possibly crack into the starting five this upcoming season?
Yeah, there's question marks there, right? I don't think there's any doubt about it. Obviously, Yu Darvish is going to be there. Joe Musgrove is going to be there. Both of whom, by the way, in talking to them today, they're feeling like they're feeling great. They're saying they feel amazing. They spent their off seasons in San Diego rehabbing the elbow for Yu, the shoulder for Joe, and they feel as strong as ever. So those are great signs to have your two anchors at the top doing what you need them to do. Michael King, I haven't seen him throw yet, so I've heard he's a great guy. I'm sure he had fun talking to him on the interview today. But everybody's excited about the stuff with him. The only question with him, of course, is how many innings will he be able to provide? 104 as a starter last year. How far do you want to push him? Obviously, you got to be protective of that. On the other hand, you don't want to put too many restrictions on it, right? Because Seth Lugo, we didn't know what we were going to get out of him, and yet he proved everybody wrong and pitched a lot more than anticipated. Now, granted, this is a different situation with a younger pitcher, but that's going to be one of the questions with him. And then Vasquez and Brito, people have been impressed with his stuff. I got a chance to watch Vasquez today in the live BP. Good stuff, good command, especially to the arm side, backdooring it to the lefties today. So those are the two guys that you think are going to fill those last two spots. That being said, we know there's always things that happen over the course of the season. We're Pedro Avila's got to be ready to go. Matt Waldron's got to be ready to go. We might see a young, we were talking about the prospects just a moment ago. Snelling, this kid's got amazing stuff. I got a chance to watch Thorpe, the other pitcher that came over from New York. He was impressive today. So there's a lot of guys that we might see over the course of the season. And frankly, to your guys' question, I think, how important is the starting rotation? For me, it's always hugely important because I love the depth that AJ Preller has added to this bullpen this year. going out and getting Matsui, going out and getting Go. You're going to have Suarez healthy. You got Wilson. You've got Cosgrove and other options. That's fantastic. But if you don't have a starting rotation that can take some of the pressure off that bullpen, if you're constantly asking that bullpen to pick up 4 or 5 innings on a nightly basis, I don't care how deep it is, that can cause problems. So the starting rotation is going to be an important thing to keep an eye on. And it may be multiple guys that we see over the course of the season, but it's something that the Padres definitely have to figure out. And guys are battling for those spots this spring, starting today as we speak.
Bob Scanlan with us right now on Jon and Jim. Bob, I'm just thinking about what we were talking about earlier about Xander and the selflessness, not selfishness, selflessness to make a decision like this. Obviously, a year ago, you think about how the dynamic played out, and clearly everyone wasn't on the same page all year long, and maybe that's the case across Major League Baseball. But is this the type of decision in spring that can kind of set them on the right path from day one? New manager, a selfless decision from a superstar. Is this the type of thing that, maybe was lacking a year ago that could go a longer way here in 2024?
I don't think that Xander wasn't the only problem last year. I think this is more a situation of it was something that was going to be addressed and brought up, whether it was this season, next season, the following season. And to Xander's point, he said, look, they brought it up. I could have dug my heels into the ground and said, no, I'm not moving yet. But he understands that's just going to be a distraction for the team, not only short run, but the question's still going to be there next year, and it's still going to be the question there the year after that. So why not just address it, grab the bull by the horns, put it behind everybody, and get him going and learning this position as quickly as possible and be the best that he can possibly be at. So the other thing is, I know that there's some questions about, why second base? If you know you're going to move him, maybe you put him at first base, get Jake Cronenworth back over to second. Don't forget that Xander is one of the leaders on this team, not only in the clubhouse, but definitely on the field, and certainly as a shortstop. And I think the Padres still wanted to have that captain, that leadership presence in the middle part of their infield, as opposed to putting him over at first base. He is so good at communicating, helping guys to understand where to cheat, where to lean, how to play the shifts, all that type of stuff. So I think that's also part of the reason that it's second base as opposed to sliding him all the way over to first base. The guy's still a leader on the field. And I think everybody else on this team, from the get-go, this is one of those messages to everybody that it's not about me, it's about us. It's about the team. And who knows, maybe there were some fissures last year in this clubhouse in terms of, is everybody on board, knowing that they're committed to this ball club, they're going to be here next year. I'm going to do whatever it takes to show the team, the organization, and everybody that I'm here for not just me, but for you guys as well. This sends that message on the first day of spring training that, guys, it's not about me, it's about us. And what do we need to do to win a championship and get back on track?
Great perspective and insight from a longtime major leaguer who, of course, you can catch on television now on Padres TV. Bob, will you be in Korea? Will you be in Korea for those opening games or not?
Yeah, I get to go over there.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the plan was. I mean, how cool? I mean, that's a pretty unique opportunity, is it not? I mean, obviously for yourself, the broadcast crew, but for the players, I mean, to go to Korea for a couple of games, that's kind of thrilling, that opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you get a chance to travel and see another culture, it's exciting, but it's fun to see it too on a baseball level. I've been fortunate. I've got a chance to play baseball, in Canada, in Mexico, in Dominican Republic, in Venezuela. Now I'm going to get a chance to see what it's like over in Korea. And I just love how the different fan bases respond to different things, the traditions that they have, all of that kind of stuff. And there's an electricity when you take Major League Baseball to another part of the world. And I just can't wait to experience it, along with just experiencing, their culture. And usually these people, they're so gracious. They're so happy to have you there. So it's going to be fun. No doubt about it. Yeah. And I'm anxious to learn what they're all about and be a part of this fun trip.
Padres Dodgers to kick off both spring training and the regular season this year
can't wait.
Korea. Bob, we appreciate it. Really do. Thank you so much for hopping on here on San Diego Sports 760. We look forward to doing it again soon, and enjoy Peoria.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.